exclusively on ESPN Plus. UFC 313, Saturday. Reigning light heavyweight champion Alex Pereira defends his title against number one contender Magomed Ankalaev, and an explosive lightweight bout between Justin Gaethje and Rafael Pazzi. UFC 313, Saturday at 10 p.m. Eastern. Buy it on ESPNplus.com/PPV.
Welcome back to Fine Tuning with Drew Taylor, your one-stop shop when it comes to animation news and commentary. I'm entertainment writer Jim Hill, and Mr. Taylor, whose writings on the industry you can regularly read over on The Wrap, and his musings on the Mission Impossible movies you can listen to on Light the Fuse, the official Mission Impossible podcast. He and I are recording this week's show on Monday, March 3rd, 2025, and all right, seriously, Drew, how much sleep did you get?
I got a fair amount of sleep. It was interesting, though, that an hour or two after the Oscars ended, we had a 3.9 earthquake. So that was interesting. It was a whole, it was a whole night. It was a full night, Jim. So, yeah.
Oh, jeez. Well, of course, Drew's referring to the 97th Academy Awards, which... talk to me. We had been following the whole Flow situation that, in fact, earlier in the award season, it really did look like this mostly made in Latvia animated feature appeared to have the inside track for the Oscar. But then DreamWorks Animation came on strong with The Wild Robot. It basically swept the Annies. And these years, if you win big at the Annies, that's sort of an indication of how well you're going to do at the Academy Awards. But in the end, that wasn't the case. Flow came out on top.
Yeah, it was interesting. It was, it wasn't just the Annies. It was VES, CAS, MPSC, CCA, CSA, ADG, ASIFA, and SCL. Those were all the guilds that The Wild Robot won. And, Golden Globes went to Flow, but, it was really interesting. I think it speaks a lot to the international body that the Academy Awards now is and represents. And, I was pretty surprised. It was pretty shocking that it won, I thought. So,
I agree. Now, don't get me wrong. It's a wonderful film. And by the way, available for viewing over on Max. So make time. Go watch it. But picking up on the theme you just mentioned and how the Academy Awards are much more international these years, if we pivot now to the Best Animated Short, In the Shadow of the Cypress, this was made in Iran. And I have to say, me personally, I have not seen this yet, but I just found out that if I go over to Vimeo, I can rent a copy of In the Shadow of the Cypress without a subscription. So I will do that after we record today. Have you managed to see this one yet, Drew? Or
no, I sadly have not seen any of the short subjects, live action, documentary, or animated, but I'm sure they're all wonderful. I mean, just seeing the clips last night really were very inspiring. I thought Yuck looked really cute. But yeah, I really can't wait to watch them all.
Okay. Well, again, congratulations to Shirin Shohani and Hossein Molayami for, again, taking home the gold for the Best Animated Short. And one final note in relation to this year's Academy Awards. Anora, which took home 5 Oscars, including Best Picture, Best Director, Best Actress, and Best Original Screenplay. Okay, they're saying that cost $6 million to make, Drew, right?
That, yes.
Okay, and we've talked previously on this podcast about how Flow cost just, $3.7 million to make. So that's 2 Academy Award winners for under $10 million, which is, let's be honest here, Drew, that's probably less than Marvel Studios spent on green screen installation and maintenance for the making of Captain America: Brave New World. And I just wonder what the takeaway is this morning for a number of folks at the studios. But anyway.
Did you see that stat that Sean Baker was the first person since Walt Disney to win 4 Oscars in a single night?
No. Oh,
yes.
God, that's right. Because it also took home the editing award.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
It's the first time somebody has won that many for a single film, but previously Walt Disney had won for 4 Oscars in a single night, I believe, for things like documentary and then animated short subject.
There we go. I was about to say that there had to be a true life film in there somewhere.
Yes.
Oh,
exactly.
Wow.
Exactly.
How cool.
Yeah.
All right. Speaking of which, we were just talking about the latest Marvel Brave New World. That managed to come out on top in the box office again this past weekend, and Drew and I will share the specific numbers in a moment. But first, we need to acknowledge our sponsor, and that is, of course, the DVC Rental Store. And if you're planning your next trip to Walt Disney World, you can save some serious scratch by renting DVC points through the DVC Rental Store. Imagine staying at a deluxe resort for a fraction of the cost. It's a total game changer. Oh, and if you already own or are thinking of joining the Disney Vacation Club, be sure and check out the DVC Resale Market. They're the leader in secondary market with over 70,000 satisfied members. And whether you're looking to buy or sell your DVC points, they make the process seamless. Okay, Drew. Back now to the North American box office for this past weekend. As we just mentioned, Captain America, Brave New World, which is beginning its 3rd week in theaters, came out on top. Domestic box office of $15 million. As for how the mostly animated fare did domestically this past weekend, Paddington in Peru took the number 4 spot with 4.5 million ticket sales. Dogman was right behind Paddington with 4.2 million in domestic ticket sales, and Mufasa had the number 6 spot with 1.9 million in ticket sales in North America. It's the number 7 spot, Drew, that I found interesting. That's where Ni Za 2, which sold 1.7 million worth of tickets in North American theaters this past weekend. And as of this morning, this sequel to the original Ni Za, that went out in theaters back in 2019, is zooming up on $2 billion in worldwide ticket sales. In fact, Ni Za 2 currently sits at $1,970 million and is expected to blow through the $2 billion box office barrier by Tuesday of this week, Wednesday at the latest. And Drew, when I see Ni Za 2 sitting at the number 7 spot, what I see is a lot of film fans saying to themselves, what is the deal with this animated film from China that's making all of this money? I have to go check this out. So, and I have to say, I have not yet gotten out to see a Ni Za 2. Apologies, was helping out with my mother's 93rd birthday celebration, but I'm going to do it this week. Have you managed to see it yet?
No, I haven't managed to see it yet either, but yeah, these numbers are really encouraging. I mean, I am dying to watch it and just to see what the phenomenon is all about. But yeah, to have it blow past 2 billion this week is going to be amazing. I mean, no animated film has done this before.
What is it?
Yeah.
Is it 3rd week or 4th week at this point? I know they put it out deliberately around the Chinese New Year to capture that audience segment when people were free to go to theaters, but that's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, the speed at which it's happening is just incredible because, as we pointed out on an earlier show, it took 10 months or something for Inside Out 2 to make what it made, and this is just like, it's incredible. It's just incredible. So yeah, we will be on top of this as it develops for sure.
Okay, and speaking of months, we are still 20 months out from Shrek 5 arriving in theaters in December of 2026. But we did get our very first, can we really call that a teaser? I mean, it was barely 30 seconds, and it was mostly pushed out through social media, right?
Yeah, I mean, to me, it felt like it was maybe intended for the Super Bowl, and for whatever reason didn't come together in time. Yeah.
Got it. Okay. Well, again, we got our first look at this DreamWorks animation film. We also learned that Zendaya will be voicing Shrek's daughter, Felicia, in this Conrad Vernon and Walter Dorn movie. By the way, we have no word yet about who will be voicing Shrek's now teenage sons, Farkle and Fergus. What did you think of the footage?
I really liked it. I'm sure you saw, Jim, that there is something of a backlash on social media about the new art style, but I thought it looked great. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, what Drew is referring to is, yes, the looks of, well, we know these four characters have been freshened. Shrek, Fiona, Donkey, and Pinocchio. And yes, I did see the uproar online, and, which I find kind of amusing, because this tells me these people haven't looked at the original Shrek from 2001 in a while, which I want to stress here. Academy Award winner, the very first film to win a Best Animated Feature Oscar back in the day. It's incredibly well written. It's got tremendous direction, some wonderful vocal performances. Let's be honest, Drew, kind of rough to look at today, but that's largely because of the advances that have been made in CG over the nearly past quarter of a century. So by 2025 standards, it looks kind of rough. But again, they did the best they could with lighting and rendering with the tech back in the day. And I want to be clear here. I would actually say the exact same thing. In fact, I would be even more so about it's rough to look at talking about the original Toy Story from 1995. That thing still stands, again, on the same virtues. It's well written, it's got great direction, amazing vocal performances, but the film itself does look kind of rough by 2025 standards. And Drew, you know this because of all the time you've spent up at Pixar, but they are never able to reuse the rigs, right? When they go to make a sequel.
Yeah, I think I know at DreamWorks the pipeline changes every 2 years, and I would say that was probably the same at Pixar. But yeah, even like Inside Out 2, which feels like it was not that far after the first movie, but I think it was like 8 years or something. They had to completely rebuild each character. And I believe that I heard Kelsey Mann say to me or somebody else that it took 2 years just to rig all of the characters. So, these people that are complaining about the new look of the Shrek characters, it's like, this is taking a lot of work and a lot of effort. And you're right that people were saying that the look on the first movie was intentionally crude to sort of, poke fun at Pixar or Disney or something, which I think is giving that first movie way too much credit. And I think they look great. They look so cute. I thought it was great. I don't know. How do you feel about the new look?
No. I love them. I love the fact that they looked as toony as they do. That those sorts of advances have been made on the CG side of things. And more to the point, the very thing you pointed out, if DreamWorks is changing out its production pipeline every 2 years, it's been 15 years now since the last Shrek movie, Drew, Shrek Forever After, which went out into theaters in May of 2010. So look, this was going to change. Also worth noting that there was more than an 11-year gap between DreamWorks' original standalone Puss in Boots movie, went out October of 2011, and Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, which went out into theaters December of 2022. They changed all the rigs for that character and Kitty Softpaws. They also went a very different way with that film's overall design and art direction, and people loved The Last Wish. So, I mean, there's the old cliche that there were people who would complain if you hung them with a new rope. I just feel like when I was watching this reaction last week in regard to the Shrek 5 teaser, it's a bunch of people who feel like they need to create new content. They have to have an opinion. And so they put that out there, and it's just like, I'm going to do something unusual. I'm going to wait to see the completed version of Shrek 5 before I complain about it. I'm funny that way.
Did you see it got so bad that DreamWorks turned off the comments on the YouTube video?
Oh,
that's how bad it got. Yeah.
No, that's ridiculous. I mean, they look great, and in fact, if anything, this made me look forward more to seeing the movie. It's like, oh, cool, a toony Shrek and Fiona and Donkey. It's like, and I actually thought the design on Felicia, the character that Zendaya is going to be voicing, and just what it teed up for a story idea that Shrek is now a dad dealing with teenagers. It's like, that's interesting.
Yes.
So looking forward to that. And we got to wait, though, till December of 2026. And speaking of waiting, going to be a brief pause here. And then Drew and I will talk about what's happened over the past week on the television side of animation. But first, this
episode is brought to you by Hyundai. Think you know what an electric vehicle should be? Think again. From the charge time and range in the Ioniq 5 and 6 to the 601 horsepower Ioniq 5N, Hyundai is redefining what EVs should be. Learn more about Hyundai EVs at HyundaiUSA.com. EPA estimated 303-mile driving range for 2024 Ioniq 5 SE SEL limited rear-wheel drive and 361-mile driving range for 2024 Ioniq 6 SE long-range rear-wheel drive with fully charged battery. Actual range may vary.
Hi, here's your report.
Thanks, Jane. I wish I could hire a whole team of yous.
Try posting a job on LinkedIn. It's the world's largest professional network. Unlike resumes, LinkedIn gives a real-time view into a candidate's skills, experiences, and more.
Let's do it. You're irreplaceable, Jane, but another you would be great.
Find your perfect match with LinkedIn. Post your free job at linkedin.com/achieve. That's linkedin.com/achieve. Terms and conditions apply.
You've maxed out your 401k, you're contributing to an IRA, and making some other investments. You're ahead of the game and doing well. But where do you go from here? The same old story can only get you so far. If you want a new take from a new type of financial professional, we invite you to get a fresh perspective beside an agent with the backing of New York Life. Insurance, investments, retirement, and more. Visit NYL.com to learn more. Investments are offered through registered representatives of NyLife Securities, LLC. Member FINRA SIPC, a New York Life company.
And we're back. Okay, we were just talking about Captain America Brave New World, which to date has sold $341 million worth of tickets worldwide, which, given that this Julius Ona film reportedly cost at least $180 million to make, the folks back in Burbank would like this Captain American sequel to continue to hang in there at the box office, to do a little better. But interesting enough, Drew, you know what the which Marvel production Disney is very, very pleased with? It's preschool show, Marvel's Spidey and His Amazing Friends, which in the last quarter of 2024 actually blew past Paw Patrol's to then become the second most viewed show in streaming for kids, and specifically boys 2 to 5. In fact, Drew, when it comes to that specific audience segment, only Bluey beats Spidey. So I guess this is why this past week Disney Branded Television revealed that it had ordered a 5th season of Marvel's Spidey and His Amazing Friends. Have you ever managed to see this?
No, but I have so many people with friends with kids who adore it, and my niece watches it. She is 3, and yeah, she knows all. As we talked about, Jim, it is the cradle to the grave model, and
there we go.
She, as a 3-year-old, knows who Hulk is, and knows who Doc Ock is, and knows who Green Goblin is. It's pretty amazing.
No, absolutely. And remember that we've talked on a recent show about not a spin-off necessarily, but the companion show, the Iron Man show that's basically going to do the same thing. It's what is it? It's the heroin business plan, right? The first taste is free, and you know that. But now speaking of animated superheroes, out ahead of Superman Legacy, the James Gunn film that's supposed to reboot the DC movie franchises over at Warner Brothers Discovery, we just learned that Krypto, Superman's dog, will be starring in his own series of shorts from that same studio. Now, I did reach out to try to get some clarification here because, of course, back in July of 2022, we did get that DC League of Super Pets movie where we actually had Dwayne Johnson as the voice of Krypto. And I've been told quite clearly, no, that not that version of Krypto. The Krypto that we saw in the teaser short, the one that the really beaten up Superman called, who came to drag him home out of the Arctic snow. That's the one who's supposed to be starring in this thing, and that there's going to be a set of 4 seasonal shorts. They don't seem to have made up their minds yet about how these will be arriving to the public. I guess there's some talk about trying 1 or 2 of them out in front of Warner Brothers Discovery films that will go out in the fall or the early fall and the holiday period. And if that doesn't connect the way that the folks at Warner Brothers want, these may just go straight to social media channels. What have you heard?
I haven't heard anything. I actually forgot about this, but I do know that Krypto is a huge part of this marketing campaign. There's already merchandise out there for Krypto. Krypto was kind of the unofficial mascot of this year's Puppy Bowl, which ran on Discovery, which is obviously part of the Warner Brothers Discovery apparatus. So, yeah, I'd be interested to see what they would kind of attach this to. I need to look at the Warner Brothers slate for the rest of the year to see what would be on there. But yeah, if they're going to go out on social media, these must be very brief, not like a 6-minute Krypto short.
Yeah, I again, and that's the thing, that they're keeping them relatively close to the vest for now, but they did as the bigger picture. And again, remember, we're not going to get to see Superman Legacy till the middle of July anyway this year. So just be interesting to see how that all gets factored in. And speaking of dogs, and I know with Nova, you're a dog lover, Drew. We have just early in the show been talking about the popular Paw Patrol animated series, which has had 2 movies to date. Paw Patrol the Movie from 2021, and then Paw Patrol the Mighty Movie that came out in 2023. And we've talked previously about, I think 5 minutes after Mighty Movie came out, they greenlit a 3rd film, which is coming out in theaters July 31st, 2026. But now at least we know the title, and that is Paw Patrol the Dino Movie. And I'm just going to read you the first line out of the description that Paramount put out about this project. And it's like, after their ship gets caught in a mysterious storm, the Paw Patrol crash land on an uncharted tropical island filled with dinosaurs. So, Drew, and again, you just spoke of having many friends right now who have small children, and to hear that lineup of elements to the effect of, okay, so we have cute little puppies that fight crime, that previously had superpowers, that have now crash landed on an island with dinosaurs. I just feel like the folks at Paramount have already called the office at Brinks, and it's like, can you set up a few more trucks for July of next year? We're going to need some armored cars, because when the toys cute little puppies and dinosaurs together in one film, the money that this is going to, it doesn't even matter if the movie is any good. Kids are getting dinosaurs, puppies. I'm there. And again, thanks to your association with the Light the Fuse, the official Mission Impossible podcast, are you privy to any of this stuff in regard to Paw Patrol?
No, except for the fact that my co-host Charles Hood has 2 little kids who are obsessed with Paw Patrol, so I get all of the all of the details of which ones they love, and there's one in a wheelchair that's very cute, and so that's I tune out as much as I can, but I do realize this is a huge, huge franchise, and I think that's a really cute idea to send them back in time to the dinosaurs. The only question, Jim, I have is, the vendor studio on these movies is Mikros, which is part of the Technicolor family. So let's just hope that this movie gets made and the people get paid and all of that. Yeah.
What's the status of this? We ended last week's show with you talking about all of this news that had come down, and they were putting out word to the effect of, we're going to try to keep the doors open, we're going to try to keep the lights on. Is there any update there? Or
I mean, I've heard that everything has been pretty much shut down, and that animation workers have not been paid for their work from February, which is really upsetting. So I'm still sort of digging around in this subject, and I will, bring updates as I have them. But I did find out that Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2 has not started animation yet, so there's a chance they can go to a different vendor. But it's very upsetting.
Well, all right. Just a moment ago, we were mentioning the folks at Paramount, and also want to remind folks that Paw Patrol isn't their only game. Of course, thanks to their association with Nickelodeon, they're very, very, very much into SpongeBob. And in fact, this week, we're going to get Plankton the movie, which debuts on Netflix. In fact, Wednesday this week, March 5th. And speaking of things that debut on Wednesday, March 5th, we have the next set of episodes for Pixar Win or Lose, which is their first ever original long-form series. And
first produced long-form series, second aired because Dream Productions beat them to Disney Plus. Because Inside Out 2 is such a hit. Yeah, so, yeah.
And I have to admit, when I was looking at this, it's interesting you brought up Dream Productions, but I was also thinking about Cars Road Trip.
Cars on the Road, yeah.
Cars on the Road, yeah. But at the same time, I guess, again, the key phrase here is original. But even then, you just pointed out, yes, DreamWorks Productions, or Dream Productions, is sort of a follow-on from Inside Out. So it's kind of in the same class as On the Road. So, okay. Yeah. All right. I won't moan about an improperly written press release. Anyway, episodes 3 and 4 of Win or Lose, which, by the way, were called Raspberry and Pickle, which, by the way, Drew, if I'm being honest here, I would consider trying if I came across that at a farmer's market. I mean, you enjoyed the strawberry rhubarb, why not have the raspberry pickle? So, but what did you think of episode 3 and 4 of the show?
I loved them. So the second episode 4 is the one that I actually saw it at Annecy in 2023. So that I had already seen that one, and I had loved it. That was the one about Vanessa's mom, and I thought it was just so great. I mean, I think the show is pretty phenomenal. One of the best things Pixar's ever done. But what did you think, Jim?
No, I very, very much enjoyed them. In fact, the fact that we had a middle schooler with a surprisingly complicated life, and the same thing with her 30-year-old mom who's trying to do right by her kid, but also have a life. I mean, again, I like that they're tackling different material, and that coupled with the fun animation style, what they do visually with this show, Very, very, very much looking forward to the next 2 episodes, which again drop on the 5th, and they're entitled Steel and Mixed Signals. So I think we're probably going to get to see more of the guy in the chicken suit. So now, a quick question. Do we have any information about how Pixar's first ever original long-form series is doing with viewers? Have you seen anything out there?
I haven't seen anything, although anecdotally, it has always been the number 1 spot in the most viewed list on the actual platform. I don't know. I'm very annoyed with Disney Plus at the moment, Jim, because I don't know if you saw this, but if you have the bundle of Hulu and Disney Plus, you were unable to watch the Oscars live. So I
saw that last night.
Yeah.
In fact, I want to say Deadline actually covered the effect of Hulu apologizing about we're having tech issues, we've gotten it straightened out, come on back. So was that how you were watching it last night?
No, I had to quickly sign up for a trial of Fubo to watch it. So yeah.
Wow.
Love that. Yeah.
All right. I think Nancy and I are old fashioned. We're out in the woods. I think we actually watched it on what are they calling it these days? Terrestrial TV. Watched it on ABC. But I bring up the again how Win or Lose is doing on a streaming service, because did you see that info that Netflix shared last week about how in the second half of 2024 the most watched piece of animation on that platform was an animated short. The the Halloween theme thing that Illuminations did that combined Michael Jackson's Thriller with the characters from the Sing film franchise.
I did see that.
Did you get to see that?
I couldn't believe that was the number 1 animated thing. I mean, it's a great short, but that's insane.
No, it is. But it's at the same time, it's one of these things where you stand back and go, okay, and that got, I mean, from when it's debuted on October 16th of last year through the end of December 2024, Drew, that thing was watched 77 million times. And you got to wonder, did the 11-minute long length of the short factor in, or is Sing as a franchise really that big, really that popular? I mean, no disrespect to Garth Jennings, the guy who wrote and directed the original film, 2016, and then its sequel in 2021. In fact, he came back and did the Michael Jackson thing as well. But no, I just find that fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, where's our Sing 3 announcement, Jim? I mean, that seems inevitable. Yeah.
It does. I'm setting my watch now. Whoa, we got 2016, we got 2021. What? Got to be 2027. You think? At least?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. So, but again, it did all of that. 77 million views in just 11 weeks. That's just crazy. And I honestly wish that Snow Bear, the animated short that Disney animation veteran Aaron Blaise has been working on for years, could attract that sort of audience. Aaron's been working on this 2D hand-drawn film forever, and it's finally going to make its Canadian premiere and at the Toronto Animation Arts Festival International. That's going to be on April 9th of this year, and I would love, especially, we're just looking at the Academy Awards, and we're just looking at In the Shadow of the Cypress getting some recognition. I'd love for this to get in the mix come 2026 Academy Awards. But you know who could have helped raise awareness for this animated short? And that was a beloved publicist and animation champion, Fumi Kitahara, who we sadly lost last week. And in a moment, Drew and I will pay tribute to this remarkable woman. But first, this.
We off?
30 seconds of carefree bliss.
Oof, like wind in your hair carefree.
Oh, like using Clorox Disinfecting All-Purpose Cleaner in the home carefree.
Yes!
Like dog slobbing on the coffee table and cleaning it with Clorox Carefree.
He's on a roll now.
Spit toothpaste on the faucet.
You got it. You got it.
Peanut butter on the light switch.
Oh, spritz, spritz.
Spritz, spritz. Clorox, man. Clean feels good.
Okay, we're back.
Use as directed.
And we're back. Drew, there's an Albert Brooks joke that I love. Goes something like this, that radio disc jockeys, when it comes to the dregs of humanity, fall somewhere between curable lepers and incurable lepers. And Brooks, when he does used to do this bit on stage, then put on a radio disc jockey's voice and, hey, you guys didn't switch places, did you? You know, you kooky, crazy characters. And I bring that up because I've been doing this job for over 40 years now, folks. And just like there are terrible disc jockeys out there, there are also terrible film publicists, people who do what they have to promote their films, but that they're not great people to deal with. And I have to say here that nobody would have ever said that about Fumi Kitahara. For me, just last night, watching the Academy Awards, and it's worth noting that, again, we lost screen legend Gene Hackman earlier this week. And always when this sort of thing happens, when we lose somebody of stature just before the Academy Awards, there are all these people associated with the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences who start to turn themselves inside out because they're like, oh, people, this happened too late. We can't get it into the in memoriam reel, and people are going to beat us up. Well, they beat them up every year over who didn't make the cut, who didn't turn up in that film segment. And there were a lot of people that's like, well, what are you going to do for Gene Hackman? And I thought between having Morgan Freeman come out and the clip at the end, they did a decent job, don't you think, Drew?
I do think I thought it was somewhat of a missed opportunity not to do something for David Lynch, because Isabella Rossellini and Laura Dern were both there. Isabella Rossellini was wearing blue velvet in memoriam of Lynch. But yeah, I thought it was a really beautiful segment. I thought they did a great job.
Well, but the reason I bring this up is I want to say the news about Fumi's passing broke after Gene Hackman's passing, and it says volumes about what the industry thought of this woman, that come Sunday night, of course, there was an image of Fumi and her name in the memoriam reel because everybody in town knew how she had moved heaven and earth previously to promote their films, to put filmmakers in the spotlight. So people moved heaven and earth to honor her, to make sure she was in that memorial reel. But I have to ask Drew, when did you first get the chance to start working with Fumi?
Oh, God, maybe 5 or 10 years ago. The thing is that I was just emailing with her like a few weeks ago. We were trying to do something about DNEG and their animation because I don't know how many people know this, but Fumi was married to Simon Otto, who is a longtime DreamWorks story artist and recent director of That Christmas, which is excellent and on Netflix.
Which I loved.
Yes.
I mean, it was a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful film.
Yeah. So, yeah, they were sort of working together on That Christmas. And, yeah, I mean, she was at every major animation studio, or at least consulted with them. Yeah. She started off in Howard Green's office, Jim, who we both know.
She did. Yeah. And, well, again, she learned from the best. Howard is the king of good, decent people, when it comes to animation publicity. And so she learned at his knee and then went out and worked for virtually every great animation studio that was out there. I mean, in fact, I remember specifically dealing with her a lot when she was at DreamWorks. And in fact, I remember her inviting me to the lot, and I want to say That was where I got to see The Curse of the Were-Rabbit, and I got to see the early stuff for Flushed Away back when the Hugh Jackman character had his two little hamster butlers that got cut out of the movie. And Fumi was just so kind, so decent, and so obviously loved animation and dealing with the people who made these movies. And so whenever she called, whether it was for, again, do you remember how they'd always do the Woman in Animation panel at San Diego
Yes.
at Comic-Con? And again, you'd get to meet all of these legends and all of these up-and-comers. But she was a force behind that. And at the same time, what she learned from Howard, she passed on to other wonderful publicists who are working today, like Olivier Moreau, who also at Netflix these days, right?
Yes. Olivier is a dear friend, and I wanted to just share one story from a friend of the show, Shannon Tyndall, who made Ultraman Rising, and he was talking about how Fumi. He was removed from Kubo, even though he was the director on it for years, directed all the voice animation, came up with the story, and she would always include him in press releases and press blasts, even though it got heat on her from, the Leica brass, because she knew that it was the right thing to do, and that it was his movie for so long, and that he was the one that started this and saw through so much of the production. And this stayed with him. And when we were talking about her passing, he shared this with me and told me I could share it on the show. But I think just speaks so well to who Fumi was as a person, her love and appreciation of these artists, as you said, and her commitment to representing the people that really made these animated features as special as they were. And I just wanted to share that on the show. So, yeah.
Yeah. And again, just want to stress here, when you talk about the films that she was involved in, that getting them out there, whether it was a Chicken Run or How to Train Your Dragon or Kubo or Coraline. Think about the work she did on Over the Moon, the Glenn Keane project, or The Sea Beast. Or for that matter, we were just talking about Oscar-winning shorts, and she was there to shine a spotlight on the boy, the mole, the fox, and the horse. So, and again, she always did it with such grace and humor, and actually, I think I enjoyed working more with Fumi, not necessarily on the hits, but the films that kind of limped out. But she loved them all. She did not. If a film was in kind of rough shape and headed to the box office, she fought as hard to get that properly promoted and to get people to give it a try as she did for the ones that were clearly going to be very great films. And this world today, we need more Fumis. We don't need fewer. So I'm just so sorry for Simon and their son, and feel bad for their loss, and but just want the two of them to know that she was loved and genuinely appreciated by those of us who work this side of the street, the entertainment writers. She was always a joy to work with. And when the phone rang and it was Fumi, it was a call you immediately picked up, or it was an email you immediately answered because she had something fun to share, or an exciting new project that she wanted to tell you about.
Oh, absolutely. Rarely do you find someone who is as beloved on the journalist side as on the filmmaker side, and that was her.
Absolutely.
Everybody loved her, and everybody really felt this loss, and will continue to feel it. But we just wanted to pay tribute to her because she was a wonderful lady, and we're gonna miss her. So, yeah,
very much so. Very much so. So, all right. Anyway, but something you no longer have to miss, because it's back, is Light the Fuse, the official Mission Impossible podcast. So we were just talking on the last show about how it's back, baby. And are we continuing to march through the earlier films as we get ready for Final Reckoning?
Absolutely.
Dead Reckoning.
Absolutely. We are marching forth. We are we have this week, we'll have our big Making a Mission Impossible 3 episode. Next week, we have 2 parts on Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol. So you're going to eat well. I hope everybody is enjoying these new kind of documentary style episodes. But yeah, we're just trying to celebrate the franchise as we lead up to the final reckoning in May. So yeah.
I have to tell you a story, Drew. I mean, again, when Nancy and I are in the car these days, I don't control the media typically. It's Nancy, and she's putting on one of her Hallmark podcasts, Deck the Hallmark or something to that effect. But we're getting ready to do a road trip. And so I was putting her on notice. It's like, Drew has started this brand new series of we're going to put a pause on Hallmark for a bit because I need to catch up, but I hear these are pretty good. And so she's like, all right, for Drew, okay, I will do this.
Thank God. So. Well, let me know what you think, Jim. And yeah.
Okay. Will do. All right. And speaking of podcasts, we got a few here. We got Disney Dish, which I do with Len Testa. We have the Epic Universal podcast, which I do with Eric Hersey, who, by the way, produces a lot of the shows here at Jim Hill Media. Likewise, we have the I Want That Too podcast, which I do with Eric's lovely bride, Lauren Hersey. We also have the Looking at Lucas from Brian Gahn. I do that with Brian Gahn, and I got to tell you, Drew, I am so happy we didn't do writing a podcast for this week and just got busy again with Mom's 93rd. And it's interesting to watch everybody have to walk back their Kathleen Kennedy stories, isn't it?
That was interesting. Yeah.
There are so many people determined to write the end of that woman's career. And it's like, it's the Monty Python skit. I'm not dead yet. Fascinating. But yeah, we'll get a new one of those out the door this week. And we also have here, of course, the Manufacturing the Magic, the History of Themed Entertainment podcast that we host. That one's produced by Noah and Shelley Valladolid. Also want to bring up our Patreon project, which Len and I do with veteran Imagineer Jim Schul. We just posted a show about the history of Tom Sawyer's Island, and Mr. Schul and I are already hard at work out ahead of the Rachel Zegler, Gail Gadot film. We're going to be talking about how the Disney parks have kept Snow White evergreen for the past 70 years. Anyway, as we head out the door here, folks, want to thank Eric Hersey and David Gray for all the wonderful work they do in regard to producing this podcast. Also have a favor to ask. If you could, Mr. Taylor, on my behalf, head on over to Apple Podcasts and rate and review not just this show, but also Light the Fuse, the official Mission Impossible podcast. Social media-wise, Drew, where are we?
Still on X for some reason, and Instagram at Drew Tailored, like a tailored shirt. That is not my email address, though, so don't email that email address. Just follow me on social media. What about you, Jim?
Got it. Still, like Mr. Taylor on X, also Instagram as Jim Hill Media, also on Facebook as Jim Hill Media News. One final note, again, what I enjoyed about last night's Academy Award was that wonderful tribute to LA. And likewise, bringing the firefighters, the first responders on stage. I wish they'd written them better jokes. But I want to remind you that there are folks out west who are still dealing with the after effects of all of these wildfires. And if you are in a position to help right now, please make a donation to the American Red Cross. And anyway, on behalf of Mr. Taylor, we want to thank you for listening to this week's Fine Tuning, and we will be back soon.